You were told Social Security is your safety net, your insurance, your reward for a lifetime of work. That story sounds comforting. It's also wildly incomplete. This video breaks down 40 lies most Americans accept without question, how the system actually works, who it really benefits, and why the rules change the moment you rely on them. No nostalgia, no speeches, just the mechanics behind the check everyone is afraid to question. 1. There is a secure vault in Washington with your name on it, holding every dollar you have ever contributed. This is the visual the government loves you to have. A giant Scrooge McDuck pile of gold coins waiting for your golden years. In reality, the Social Security Trust Fund contains exactly $0. Economists politely call it a pay-as-you-go system, but the mechanics feel Ponzi-like to many critics. There is no investment, no compound interest, and certainly no lockbox. The money is spent the second it hits the Treasury, leaving behind nothing but a glorified sticky note reminding the government that they owe you money they will likely have to print or borrow to repay. 2. Do you believe the politicians who built the system trusted it with their own financial futures? Don't make me laugh. For nearly 50 years, from the start of the program until 1984, members of Congress, the president, and federal employees were completely exempt from Social Security. That's right. The people writing the laws knew the deal was so bad compared to private investing that they wrote themselves a get-out-of-jail-free card. They had their own separate, far superior pension system called the CSRS, while forcing you into theirs. They only joined the system recently to save face, but for decades, their actions screamed louder than their words. This system is good enough for you, but it is certainly not good enough for us. 3. You have a legal contractual right to the benefits you have paid for all your life. Most people believe that Social Security is property, like a car or a house, that cannot be taken away. This is a comforting lie that was destroyed by the Supreme Court back in 1960 in the case Fleming v. Nestor. The court ruled that Social Security is not an insurance contract, but a tax. This means you have absolutely no legal claim to your benefits. Congress has the power to slash benefits or rewrite the rules overnight, and you wouldn't have a leg to stand on in court. You aren't an investor with rights. You are a taxpayer at the mercy of whatever political party happens to be in charge when you turn 65. 4. One of the most dangerous myths is that your Social Security check is legally untouchable by debt collectors. This is the false security blanket that gets thrown over seniors right before the government rips it away. While it is true that a private credit card company or a predatory payday lender cannot garnish your Social Security benefits, the federal government plays by a completely different set of rules. If you owe money to Uncle Sam, be it back taxes to the IRS or, shockingly, federal student loans from 40 years ago, they can and will garnish up to 15% of your monthly check. That's right, the government can garnish your retirement to pay off a student loan you took out in the 1980s, proving that their debt collection powers override your need to eat. 5. The government claims it will take care of your funeral costs, so your family doesn't have to worry. This is perhaps the most insulting benefit in the entire federal code. Technically, yes, there is a death benefit, but it has been capped at exactly $255 since 1954. Back in the 50s, that amount might have covered a decent casket and a somber lunch for the mourners. Today, that won't even cover the cost of the flowers or the cremation of a medium-sized pet. The government has never adjusted this number for inflation in over 70 years. While you spend a lifetime paying thousands into the system, the final thank you from Uncle Sam is a check that barely covers the gas money your relatives spent driving to the funeral home. 6. You would be absolutely terrible at managing this money yourself, so the government must do it for you. This is the most arrogant lie of them all. Let's look at the math that makes financial advisors scream into their pillows. If you took the exact amount of money taken from your paycheck for Social Security over a lifetime and simply parked it in a boring, standard market index fund, you wouldn't just have a pension, you would be a multimillionaire. Seriously, the government takes your cash and gives you a return on investment that is worse than burying it in a coffee can in the backyard. They have effectively robbed you of generational wealth and handed you back a coupon for a discount retirement, all while patting themselves on the back for saving you from your own stupidity. 7. Social Security disability is marketed as an easy safety net if you ever get hurt and can't work. People think this is like calling in sick to work. In reality, it is more like fighting a 3-year court battle against a brick wall. The system is designed to say no. The initial rejection rate for disability claims is staggering. Nearly 70% of people are denied on their first try. You could practically be in a full-body cast, and the government will send you a letter saying, "We think you could still probably operate a telephone with your nose." They bank on you giving up before the appeal ends. It isn't a safety net. It's an obstacle course designed to weed out anyone who doesn't have the stamina of a Spartan warrior. 8. Teachers, firefighters, and police officers supposedly get the best retirement deals for serving the public. This is the lie that crushes heroes. If you earn a pension from a job where you didn't pay into Social Security, like many state jobs, and you also worked a second job where you did pay in, you trigger the windfall elimination provision. It sounds like a boring law, but it's actually a chainsaw. The government looks at your pension and slashes your earned Social Security benefits by up to 50%. You paid the taxes, you earned the credits, but because you were a public servant, they decide you don't deserve the full payout. It's a legalized haircut targeting the people we claim to respect the most, punishing them for serving their communities. 9. We are told that benefits are completely tax-free because you already paid taxes on that money when you earned it. Logic would dictate that taxing the same dollar twice is criminal. But since when has government policy been friends with logic? The brutal truth is that Uncle Sam loves to double dip into your retirement fund. If you have other sources of income, like a 401k or a part-time job, and your combined income crosses a remarkably low threshold, the IRS can tax up to 85% of your Social Security benefits. They convinced you this was a tax-free safety net, only to reveal later that it is treated as taxable income if you were responsible enough to save money elsewhere. It is a penalty for planning ahead. 10. Divorce leaves you with nothing but heartache and legal bills, right? Actually, this is the one time the government plays the role of a chaotic Robin Hood. There is a secret revenge check called the divorced spouse benefit. If you were married to someone for at least 10 years and you haven't remarried, you can claim benefits on their work record. It doesn't matter if they hate your guts. It doesn't matter if they are remarried to a supermodel. You can claim up to 50% of their benefit amount, and, here is the best part, they won't even know. The government doesn't notify them. It's the ultimate silent victory, cashing a check every month that exists solely because you tolerated your ex for a decade. Finally, a refund for your wasted time. 11. Social Security was supposedly designed to support you for decades of a happy, leisurely retirement. This suggests the government actually wants you to live a long time. The grim historical truth is that when the program was created in 1935, the retirement age was set at 65, while the average life expectancy for a man was roughly 60. While that average was dragged down by childhood mortality, the brutal reality remains that the system was architected on the assumption that most people would have the courtesy to die before they collected much. It was never built to support 30 years of golf. It was insurance against living too long. Now that people are actually surviving into their 80s, the system is collapsing because it was fundamentally a bet against your survival. 12. A common financial trick is to hide your wealth in tax-free municipal bonds to keep your Social Security safe from the IRS. Nice try, but the government is way ahead of you. People love tax-free bonds because the interest isn't taxed on your standard income return. But when it comes to Social Security, the IRS uses a secret formula called provisional income. In this twisted calculation, they legally add all that tax-free interest right back into the mix to decide if they should tax your benefits. It is a glorious bait-and-switch where they tell you an investment is tax-exempt, only to use that very investment as an excuse to claw back money from your retirement check. You think you are being clever with your portfolio, but you are actually just painting a target on your back. 13. Your Social Security card is treated as a high-security document that must be guarded with your life. Have you actually looked at this thing lately? It is a flimsy piece of paper that looks like a carnival ticket from 1934. It has no photo, no microchip, no fingerprint, and no biometric data. Yet, we use this rotting scrap of paper as the master key to our entire financial lives. It was never, ever intended to be a national ID card. The creator of the system explicitly said so. But now, if a thief gets those 9 digits, they are you. The government built a vault door out of cardboard and told you it's impenetrable, making you the victim of the easiest identity theft game on the planet. 14. You just need to prove your identity to claim the benefits you are owed. If only it were that simple. The Social Security Administration is obsessed with original paperwork. If you are applying for spousal benefits or survivor benefits, they often demand the original marriage certificate. Not a copy, not a scan, the original document with the raised seal. If you were married 40 years ago and lost that piece of paper in a move, or a flood, or a fire, they can deny your claim until you navigate the hellscape of county clerk offices to replace it. And if you are divorced, you need the divorce decree and the marriage certificate. They hold your financial survival hostage over a piece of paper that might not even exist anymore, treating you like a fraudster until you produce the holy grail of documents. 15. The annual raise you get is designed to match the real price of survival. This is gaslighting at its finest. The cost of living adjustment, COLA, is calculated using a basket of goods for urban wage earners, basically young people who buy flat-screen TVs and denim jeans. It completely ignores the spending reality of seniors, who spend their cash on heating bills, prescription drugs, and hospital visits. The price of electronics might drop, keeping the official inflation number low, but the price of insulin skyrockets. The result? Your raise is practically invisible, and your purchasing power shrinks every single year while the government pretends they just did you a huge favor. They are using a ruler that measures a completely different game. 16. Being your own boss means you finally escape the system's grip. Oh, you sweet summer child. If you decide to live the American dream and start a small business, the Social Security Administration becomes your worst nightmare. When you are an employee, you split the tax bill with your boss, 50-50. But when you are self-employed, you are the boss, which means you have to pay both halves. It's called the self-employment tax, which is a polite way of saying double punishment for being ambitious. You get the privilege of paying 15.3% of your hard-earned income straight to the government for the exact same benefits as the guy who clocks in and does the bare minimum. It's a tax on hustle, plain and simple, designed to make you regret independence. 17. Federal taxes are bad enough, but surely your state government keeps its hands off your check. Wrong. Depending on where you choose to retire, you might get hit with a triple tax whammy. While the feds are already taking their cut, there are still roughly 10 to 12 states that classify Social Security as taxable income. You spent your life paying income tax to earn the money. Then you pay federal tax to get the benefit, and then the state governor knocks on your door asking for his share too. It creates a ridiculous reality where moving across a state line, literally a few miles down the road, could be the difference between a comfortable retirement and poverty, simply because local politicians are greedy. 18. If you become too old or sick to manage your own money, you'd assume the system protects your funds. This is where the story turns into a horror movie. The Social Security Administration appoints something called a representative payee to handle your checks. Multiple government audits have found instances of fraudsters and unfit guardians being handed control of seniors' life savings. There is practically no oversight. Once that payee is assigned, they can drain your account dry, spending your rent money on themselves, and the Social Security Administration usually just shrugs. It is a system rife with oversight failures, where the fox is not only guarding the henhouse but was hired by the farmer. 19. Billionaires contribute to the pot all year round, just like the rest of us peasants. Absolute nonsense. There is a magic line in the sand called the wage base limit. The moment a wealthy person earns past that amount, usually early in the year, they stop paying Social Security taxes entirely. While you are seeing that painful deduction on your paycheck in December, the CEO of your company likely stopped paying it before Valentine's Day. They get a tax holiday for 10 months of the year while you keep grinding. It is a regressive system where the person scrubbing the toilets pays a higher percentage of their actual total income than the person flying the private jet, and the government hopes you are too busy working to notice. 20. You can trust the Social Security agents to give you the best financial advice for your specific situation. This assumption is dangerous. These employees are overworked bureaucrats, not certified financial planners, and they are frequently wrong. A government audit found that SSA employees gave incomplete or downright incorrect information to widows and widowers nearly 82% of the time, costing those people thousands of dollars in lost benefits. But here is the real kicker. If an agent gives you bad advice and you lose money because of it, you cannot sue them. The Supreme Court has ruled that the government is not liable for the misinformation provided by its own employees. You are literally betting your financial future on the competence of a random person at a call center. 21. Taking benefits early is just a temporary pay cut until you hit the official retirement age. This is the financial equivalent of a tattoo. Once you do it, you are stuck with it forever. Millions of people file at 62 thinking, I'll just take the smaller check for a few years, and then it will bump up when I turn 67. Wrong. The moment you sign those papers, you lock in that reduced rate for the rest of your life. You have essentially agreed to a permanent 30% reduction in your income until the day you die. The government doesn't automatically upgrade you later. They keep you in the bargain bin. It is a one-way door that slams shut behind you, and unless you withdraw your application within 12 months and pay back every single cent, there is no undo button. 22. You can work hard for 20 years and retire with a full, healthy pension. The math says otherwise, and it is brutal. Social Security calculates your payout based on your highest 35 years of earnings. Not 10, not 20, 35. If you only worked for 25 years because you were raising kids, caring for sick parents, or just struggling to find a job, the government doesn't just ignore those missing years. They fill them in with a giant fat zero. These zeros are dragged into the average, nuking your final monthly payout. It is a mathematical punishment for anyone who dared to have a life outside of the workforce, effectively treating motherhood or unemployment like a financial crime. 23. Finding love again after the death of a spouse is something the government supports. Only if you time it with a stopwatch. There is a grotesque rule known as the widow's trap. If you are receiving survivor benefits because your spouse passed away, and you make the mistake of remarrying before your 60th birthday, the government cuts you off completely. You lose the check. However, if you wait until the day after you turn 60 to say, I do, you get to keep the money. The system essentially forces grieving partners to choose between financial stability and companionship, turning your romantic life into a cold, calculated calendar calculation where marrying one day too early costs you tens of thousands of dollars. 24. Social Security money has always been kept strictly separate from the federal budget to protect it from politicians. This is the lockbox myth that makes grandmothers nod in agreement, but it is historically false. In 1968, President Lyndon B. Johnson needed to hide the massive, spiraling costs of the Vietnam War to avoid public panic. His solution? He pulled a masterful accounting trick called the unified budget. He moved the Social Security surplus into the general federal budget to make the national deficit look smaller on paper. Suddenly, your retirement savings were being used to mask the cost of bombs and bureaucracy. Although laws have theoretically changed since then, the damage was done. The psychological barrier was broken, and politicians realized they could use your retirement fund as a slush fund. 25. Your Social Security account is an asset that belongs to your family if you die early. This is the biggest difference between a 401k and the government scam. If you have a private savings account with $500,000 and you die the day after you retire, that money goes to your children. It builds generational wealth. But with Social Security, if you die single at 63, in most cases, unless you have a qualifying survivor, all the money you poured in for decades essentially vanishes. It doesn't go to your estate, it is absorbed back into the collective pot. You don't build equity, you just pay a membership fee to a club that kicks you out the moment your heart stops beating. The government effectively bets on you dying early so they can keep the change. 26. Social Security acts as a life insurance policy that sees your kids through college if you die. This used to be true, and that makes the current reality even more bitter. Until 1981, survivor benefits paid out until a child was 22 if they were a student. It was a massive engine for social mobility. Then, the government decided that was too generous and slashed the age cutoff to 18, or 19 if still in high school. Now, the check stops exactly when the most expensive years of a child's life begin. They pulled the ladder up, leaving millions of widows and orphans to figure out university tuition on their own. They market it as insurance, but it cancels itself right when you need the payout the most, abandoning your children at the precise moment they become adults. 27. Only the wealthy have to worry about paying taxes on their Social Security benefits. This was true back in 1984, when the law was written, but today it is a trap for the middle class. The income thresholds for taxing your benefits were set at $25,000 for individuals and $32,000 for couples. Here is the scam. Congress has never, not even once, adjusted these numbers for inflation. Not in 40 years. Thanks to decades of inflation, $25,000 isn't wealthy anymore. It's barely survival level. Yet because the law is frozen in time, millions of low-income seniors are being pushed into the taxable bracket simply because the dollar is worth less. It is a stealth tax hike that hits more and more poor people every single year. 28. The government keeps perfect records of every dime you earn so you don't have to worry about the paperwork. This is the lazy lie that costs Americans millions. The Social Security Administration makes clerical errors all the time, missing entire years of your work history. But here is the kicker. There is a statute of limitations on correcting their mistakes. If you notice an error in your earnings record after 3 years, 3 months, and 15 days, the government legally refuses to fix it. Even if you have the pay stubs and tax returns to prove they messed up, they simply shrug and say, "Too late. That money you paid is gone forever," swallowed by the bureaucracy because you didn't audit the federal government's homework in time. 29. Taking the lump sum payout is a smart bonus to kickstart your retirement. When you file for benefits after your full retirement age, the SSA might offer you a tempting chunk of cash, up to 6 months of retroactive benefits paid all at once. It looks like free money, a nice fat check to buy a boat or pay off the house. Do not fall for it. It is a mathematical trap. If you take that lump sum, they reset your filing date back 6 months, which permanently lowers your monthly check for the rest of your life. They are effectively bribing you with your own money to accept a lower salary until the day you die. You get a moment of instant gratification in exchange for decades of reduced income, and the house wins in the long run. 30. Your Social Security check and your healthcare costs are two completely separate financial issues. They want you to think this, but the two are actually handcuffed together in a miserable marriage. For most seniors, Medicare Part B premiums are deducted automatically from their Social Security check before it ever hits the bank account. Here is the scam. When healthcare premiums rise, which they always do, they often eat up the entirety of your cost of living adjustment. You hear on the news that you're getting a 3% raise, but your bank account balance stays exactly the same because Medicare swallowed the whole thing. It is a shell game where the government transfers money from one of its pockets to another, and you are left holding nothing but the receipt. 31. Every dollar you contribute counts towards your future, no matter how little you work. This is the participation trophy myth. The system is actually ruthless about the 10-year rule. To qualify for retirement benefits, you need 40 credits, which equates to roughly 10 years of work. If you work hard for 9 years, pay all your taxes and then get sick, leave the country, or become a stay-at-home parent, You get absolutely nothing. Zero. Those 9 years of contributions are essentially a donation to the U.S. Treasury. There is no partial refund, no prorated check. You either cross the finish line or they keep every single cent. This all-or-nothing approach destroys the financial future of anyone with a spotty work history. 32. The more money you pour into the system, the proportionally bigger your check will be. This appeals to our sense of fairness. You get out what you put in. In reality, Social Security is a progressive system designed to give a terrible return on investment to high earners. It uses bend points to calculate your payout. For the first chunk of your income, they replace about 90% of it. But for the highest chunk of your earnings, they only replace 15%. It is a system of diminishing returns. If you are a high earner, you are effectively subsidizing the system. You are throwing premium dollars into a machine that spits out pennies in return, making it one of the worst performing investments a successful person could possibly make. 33. Social Security will provide for all your children equally if you pass away or retire. This sounds nice, like a limitless buffet, but in reality, the kitchen closes pretty fast. There is a harsh cap known as the family maximum. The system limits the total amount of money that can be paid out on one person's record, usually between 150% and 180% of the benefit. If you have a large family, say a spouse and 4 kids, the pie doesn't get bigger, the slices just get thinner. The government forces your children to compete against each other for the same limited pot of cash. Instead of supporting your large family as promised, the system dilutes the aid until the checks are barely worth cashing, effectively penalizing you for having more dependents. 34. You earn your benefits for every single day you are alive and breathing. This is the pettiest rule in the entire system. Social Security operates on a strict entire month rule. To be eligible for a check for a specific month, you must be alive for every single second of that month. If you die on February 28th at 11:59 p.m., you did not live the entire month of February. The government will not pay your family for those 28 days. In fact, if the check for February hits your bank account in March, and the bank notifies them you passed away, the Treasury will legally reach into your bank account and claw that money back. It is a final, bureaucratic slap in the face where they steal a month's worth of rent from your grieving family. 35. The earnings penalty applies to everyone who makes too much money after retiring. This is a half-truth that exposes a rigged system. The penalty, where they take back $1 for every $2 you earn, only applies to wages. It applies to the guy greeting people at Walmart or the woman consulting part-time. However, if you are wealthy and your income comes from investments, dividends, rental properties, or capital gains, the Social Security Administration doesn't touch a dime of your benefits. You could make $1 million a year sitting by a pool, checking your stock portfolio, and keep your full check. But if you sweat for $25,000 a year at a job, they punish you. It is a system that penalizes labor while giving a free pass to leisure and capital. 36. The system treats hardworking dual-income couples with the same respect as a 1950s sitcom. This is the marriage penalty that nobody talks about. If one spouse works and the other stays home, the non-worker gets a free spousal benefit. But if you and your spouse both grind away at full-time jobs for decades, paying hundreds of thousands in taxes, you don't get to stack your checks. You can't collect your full benefit plus a spousal benefit. The government forces you to pick just one. This means the taxes paid by the second earner in the household are effectively a donation to the void. The system is rigged to reward the traditional single-earner household while financially slapping the face of modern couples who both contribute to the economy. 37. The annual statement you receive in the mail is a legally binding promise of your future wealth. That piece of paper is a work of fiction. It is designed to act like a sedative, showing you a specific dollar amount to make you feel like you have a savings account. But read the fine print. That number is a projection based on current laws, not available funds. By the time you retire, the trust fund will likely be insolvent, meaning that number on the page could drop by 20–25% instantly. The statement is a comforting PR projection. It encourages you to feel rich and complacent today based on money that the government knows it doesn't actually have for tomorrow. 38. You can opt out of the system if you fundamentally disagree with how your money is being managed. Try it. I dare you. Unless you are a member of a recognized religious sect that has been opposed to public insurance since December 31st, 1950, like the Amish, you are a prisoner. It doesn't matter if you can prove you would invest the money better yourself. It doesn't matter if you hate the system's logic. Participation is mandatory. If you try to stop paying, the enforcement arm of the IRS will eventually show up to enforce payment through penalties and seizures. It is not a retirement plan. It is a tribute payment to the crown, and there is no door marked exit. 39. Waiting until age 70 to claim benefits is the smartest financial move for everyone. Financial gurus love to push this advice, but it is a casino bet where you are gambling against your own health clock. The break-even age is roughly 82. That means if you delay your check to get the higher amount, but you die at 75, you have lost a massive fortune compared to if you had started collecting at 62. The government loves it when you wait. They encourage you to delay because they know actuarial tables better than you do. Every year you wait is a year they don't have to pay you. And if you have a heart attack at 69, they win the entire pot. 40. Social Security is the only reason American seniors aren't living in poverty. This is the savior complex lie designed to make you grateful for a bare minimum check. While it provides a safety net, the system has also created a dangerous culture of dependency. By forcing Americans to rely on a government promise rather than personal assets, it stripped the middle class of the capital they needed to build real, independent wealth. We traded autonomy for a meager allowance. The true tragedy isn't just the low return on investment. It's that generations of workers were taught to outsource their financial survival to a system that views them as numbers, not people. After hearing all this, here's the uncomfortable test. If Social Security were launched today, with these exact rules, deductions, and returns, would you voluntarily sign up, yes or no? Don't explain it politely. Say why you'd accept it or why you'd walk away instantly. Read the comments after you post. You'll see how divided people really are. And if this video said out loud what you've quietly suspected for years, hit like, subscribe, and stay here. Because the next ones get even less comfortable.